once again, you can make money on regular deals, but this is about how to really make a big gain. And we've, on those auction sites, that really catapulted our real estate business, because we purchased at least 3 centers through that auction type platform, making several $1 million total on those deals that we wouldn't have been able to make if we weren't both on those sites looking for the opportunity and willing to take the risk that it took to bid on them.
How's it going, guys? And welcome back to How to Invest in Commercial Real Estate. Today, we are going over the top 5 creative ways to make big gains in commercial real estate.
I don't know if they're the top 5, but they're 5 ways that we've used to make outsized gains in some of the deals that we've done.
Outsized gains. All right. The biggest gain. Which one's the biggest one out of the 5? Just pick.
Just pick one?
Just pick one. Which one do you think is the coolest, biggest, most creative? Let's go creative. The most creative way you've made money in commercial real estate
is probably the Dutch brothers that we've mentioned before.
Okay.
I'd say. Yep.
Okay. That's a good one.
And so I think the point there is that, looking at a deal and seeing something that nobody else has been able to see. So this deal wasn't a new deal. It had gone through a foreclosure. It had gone through multiple owners.
Yeah.
And so we fly out and we're looking at this deal, and Braden, you were with me, and we just started looking at it and thought, man, this parking lot, there's this little bit too much parking available down on the north end. And it had a drive, and it was right in front of a light. And we thought, man, that would be a cool out parcel to do something. And knew it wasn't big, but that's what started us down this journey of just asking the questions. What if we could separate that out parcel out? And so, man, that's a slow process. But we started with just seeing how much parking lot we could contribute to a new out parcel. And then we put it on the market just to see what would happen.
Yeah, and it wasn't very long. It was a couple months, a few months. I mean, it was a quarter or two, and then we have an LOI on this piece of parking lot. I mean, it's...
So how do those work? They're just paying you a lease on the parking lot, basically, or how do you make money off that?
Well, the first way you make money off of it is coming up with the crazy freaking idea to do it, because it was like 20 parking spaces, and
that's all it took up.
Yeah, I mean, it was 30?
It was probably, I'm going to guess, a half an acre.
No.
Well, when you consider the whole piece of land, it's probably a half an acre.
Okay, we're going to bring it up and we're going to decide.
Okay.
But it was a tiny piece of parking, and so you give it to a broker, just like a leasing broker, and it wasn't built into the income, which you were buying the shopping center off of the income it already produced. So anything you produced out of this piece of parking lot was just straight upside. Mm-hmm. And where our office was, a brand new little drive-through coffee concept, and basically the landlord or the developer is delivering a concrete pad with stubbed utilities, and then the tenant is dropping like basically a shipping container on top of it and selling coffee out of it. So it's fairly easy construction. And you put that on the market. You're hoping for like a tropical smoothie, a Dutch Brothers, a Dunkin' Donuts, just quick service, drive through, don't need a lot of square footage. And like I said, it was on the market for a couple months.
Got an LOI from Dutch Brothers Coffee on a ground lease. So they could have said, hey, we want to build a suit. That means, okay, you guys have to build the building for us, and you may get higher rent for that. Right. But we decided to try to do a ground lease where they just said, hey, we'll rent the ground on a 15-year lease, 10 or 15-year lease for a set amount, and then we'll take care of putting our building on it.
I see.
So that's really maximizing the profit, because we didn't have hardly any expenses, some legal fees. Yeah. They really even took care of stubbing in the utilities to their unit. So we ended up selling that this year for like $1.45 million, almost $1.5 million. The ground lease. We're selling the ground lease. And so basically we're selling the parking lot and that lease for $1.5 million. And I would have said it was probably at least $1.4 million in profit after some commission and some fees.
Yeah, nice.
And we've tried to replicate that. We have an out parcel going in our Little Rock deal that's taken longer. For some reason, that took a lot longer, but
I forgot about that.
Yeah, we do have I believe, a signed lease with Discount Tire now.
That's a great tenant.
And it's a ground lease as well, and so that'll be worth even more than the Dutch Brothers. We only own about half of that. We're sharing it with the other lot owner. And then we're trying to do one at our perimeter here in Tulsa, and we almost got that finalized. We had to negotiate with Walmart to let for them to let us put something on it. But when you're looking at deals, if you're out there and you're doing deals, this is just one avenue that we found that you can really get outsized gains by just getting free money, utilizing parking lot that you don't need, carving off its own lot and selling it with a ground lease.
Yeah, and a lot of those older shopping centers are overparked because of the retailers and just the parking regulation that was around back then versus now. Those
point.
Retailers just don't need that parking, and it's a really common thing. So if you're looking at buying a shopping center, you may have an out parcel available that's just straight upside. I mean, it's rare that you find $1.5 million straight upside. Didn't build it into the pro forma, didn't build it into the business plan. And the equity raise on that, I mean, might not have even been $1 million.
It was that equity raise was 3, so that we got 50% return on equity there just by that one thing, even though the property is continuing to generate cash. So,
all right, nice. The next one is a really good one, and it's one we harp on a lot, but it's just really looking for under market rents. So when you're thinking about, a single family rental, you're going to go buy a house and you're going to rent that. A lot of gurus, a lot of people out there say you want to buy a working collar house. You want to buy a $200,000 house, $160,000 house, and be able to rent that out for a rent that an average person can afford. Similar concept in shopping centers, when you can go in, or any asset class really, when you can go in and you see, hey, these rents are drastically under market here. You take something that could be a big win with just 2 or 3% annual bumps. And when you start getting, 5, 7, 10 or more percentage annual bumps or lease increases, the upside is huge.
It rockets the value.
Yeah. I think we did a show where we took that and we actually put some numbers on it, and the value that it can add is amazing.
And so you may ask, okay, well, doesn't the market take care of the rents? And if the rents are $10 a foot at a certain shopping center, isn't that what the area dictates? I'm kind of throwing that out there. What do you guys?
I mean, not necessarily, because it does somewhat, but it also depends on how good the shopping center looks. A lot of people they'll pay a higher rent for. It can be catty corner to another shopping center. If it looks nicer, then they'll pay higher rents, right?
Yeah, if you've got an established business in there that's working and the rest of the shopping center is full and they can't really go to a competing place, but even if they could, it's going to be a ton of money. The chances are you can probably get them to stay with reasonable increases.
Yeah.
Reasonable. That being said, if you've got a tenant that's just, like we're looking at a deal right now, a tenant's paying, $1 per square foot
per year.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm going to try to encourage you guys to do. So when you go into to look at the market, how do I evaluate these rents? It may be that it's a tough area and you're going to have a hard time getting more rent. It may be that it's right next door to a newer area, and that newer area took a lot of their tenants. They had high vacancy, so they had to drop their rates artificially to get the occupancy back up. Mm-hmm. But if it's close to a good area, it may be that it's time to start raising those rents. Our example on this one, a lot of people have heard us talk about, is Village South, where out-of-state owner, some guys owned it. They passed away. They handed it off to their kids. Their kids owned it. Their kids are getting older. And
by the way, pause right there. If you get a seller profile of that, negotiate to frickin' win, by the way, because that's a dream setup.
That's right. They inherited this property. They didn't pay anything for it. Anything they sell it for is a win for them. They may not negotiate as hard as someone else that just bought it and needs to ink out a profit.
Right.
But the point on this is that this property had a tough go through the recession. All the new development was a mile or two away on Memorial. And so they struggled as all that was getting built out and through the recession. So man, they were just taking tenants, $6, $8, $10 a year. The demographics were still amazing, but they were just the older center. Mm-hmm. Well, all that stuff a mile next to it got filled up at $25 a foot. And now they started to finally get some leases done. They got to about 80, 90%. Like, we should sell this. We're sick of dicking with it. So that's where we came in, and we just got really lucky and bought this center with rents at $10, $11, $8 a foot. And we knew that they hadn't managed it to its full potential. And so we got 40, 50% increases in a matter of 2-3 years. And so that really blew the value up. It's probably worth double or close to double what we paid for it.
Yeah, and we're not going to say that you're not going to lose a tenant. You're not going to have a vacancy. You're not going to have, some tenant who just doesn't work with that profile. But that being said, the majority of the center was able to come up with the market and ride those rent increases, and they still have viable, profitable businesses.
Yeah, definitely. So under market rents, I think, is if you can identify that where you can drastically increase rents and retain most tenants, or if they bail, have a new tenant waiting in line, that's how to get some outsized gains in commercial real estate. And that's what we've been able to do on a few of our centers.
All right. Next one. When you are trying to buy a property that is publicly listed, it went on, the best broker's email list, every institutional investor in that asset class, knows about it. They got notified. It's a lot more competitive. When a deal is publicly broadcasted on this super easy platform with a great broker, you're going to have to be competitive. You're going to have to sharpen your pencil. But sometimes there's these deals that are off market. They may be on an auction platform. They may be on a sheriff's sale or getting foreclosed on. And that really screams opportunity a lot of the times. You can pick up a great deal from some of those things just because there's less competition. There's less people in there. Right.
Mm-hmm. Well, and even off market, we've talked about on the show before, where if you want to get a relationship with a broker, you want him to bring you some of these deals before they go on market. Right. It's the same situation. It's not a distressed sale like maybe a foreclosure or a sheriff's auction or something like that, but where you can get some really good deals. But even that's a good way to get a little bit better deal.
Yeah, one of my favorite deals I've ever bought was an off market deal. It's on Cherry Street, but that was completely off market, and I didn't have any competition. The guy said, "Hey, I'm thinking about selling this," and we were like, "Oh, we could be interested in buying that," and we, kind of got a deal on it. It was a win-win.
Yeah, that's a great point. So there's several different ways to get yourself into a competitive advantage. One is to have a relationship and learn about a deal that's off market, or someone that may want to sell that isn't going to broadcast it to 1,000 people or 10,000 people. Right. You've got to set yourself up. You can make money buying the listed deals, and I buy some listed deals too.
For sure.
This show is about making outsized gains, really big gains in creative ways of buying real estate. So that would be one, off market. Another one that you mentioned is we had some success buying on 10X. It's an auction site that's very rigid in how you go about buying it. They don't give you more than 30 days. You have to close. You have to put 10% non-refundable day one.
You have to have proof of the entire purchase price in
liquid funds.
Liquid funds.
And so you're weeding out a bunch of people. And some of the big players aren't going to mess with distressed and auction type site. They want to be able to do their thorough due diligence. So it is a riskier platform, and that creates less competition and puts you in a position to get an asset for way less than you normally would if everybody was looking at it and everybody had a chance to evaluate it.
Yeah, it's funny because the competition we've had on those auction platforms was artificial competition. It was literally the seller bidding on the auction platform against us. So, watch yourself there. But it was just the fact that literally nobody else was bidding on Liberty. And then the other deal we tried to buy on the auction platform, the one in Norman that Andy brought us. That was another one we watched, and it started, and we thought it could trade, 9, 11 million. I think we could have bought it for, and it sold for like 16 or 18.
Well, that's a point of we should have bought it off market, and it actually went to auction, and that auction actually did produce a high price. But we had our chance ahead of time to buy it off market, and we didn't take advantage of the unique situation that we had presented to us, and we left several $1 million on the table. So hopefully we're encouraging guys to think outside the box, and how do you put yourself in a competitive advantage where you're bidding against fewer people directly with the seller, or there's some barrier to entry that's keeping some people out where you can get something at a much lower price than you would have otherwise. Right. Once again, you can make money on regular deals, but this is about how to really make a big gain. And we've, on those auction sites, that really catapulted our real estate business because we purchased at least 3 centers through that auction type platform, making several $1 million total on those deals that we wouldn't have been able to make if we weren't both on those sites looking for the opportunity and willing to take the risk that it took to bid on them.
Yeah, which is a big risk because, like you said, you have to go 10% non-refundable at the end of the auction, and they know that because they have your liquid proof of funds.
Yeah, it's a big. I mean, obviously, if we bid and then we backed out, they would just, I think it was like $50,000 fee or something. But once you wire them the money, it is non-refundable. You're not getting it back. Yeah. So
All right. Another one is, it could be just a gross property. It needs major repairs. It's really run down. It's not occupied, or it doesn't have a high occupancy. It's got a big vacancy. Maybe it's in, the outside of a good part of town, like you were explaining with Village South. Something that was the same deal we tried to buy on the auction too. I mean, a brand new big power center was built right across the street. Took all this. Center's tenants, and it could have been easily backfilled, but we just didn't believe in the plan. But anyway, it just goes to the testament, when you can buy something run down and need of a major rehab, if you can execute that business plan and get the future rent once it's stabilized and the rehab is done, that can lead to massive upside.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't want to buy those because they don't want to have to put the work in to redo them, or they don't feel as comfortable buying them because they don't know how much it's going to cost to renovate something that's, needs some massive overhaul. So again, it's less competition, and you're going to hopefully get a better price on something like that.
Yeah, I want to make this statement so people get it. The best deals never look like the best deals when you're buying them, and so if it had a sign on it that said somebody's going to make $2 million on me in the next 18 months, you'd never buy it because everyone would be bidding the price up.
Yeah.
Right. So that's what we're trying to say here is some of the ugliest foreclosure properties can have the hugest upside if you can stomach the risk and you can see the potential that it has, because they come with problems and they come with risk, and you always get rewarded for solving problems and for taking risks. That's it. That's where the gains are, is solving problems and taking on risk, because those are two things that the average person doesn't want to deal with.
Right.
And so if it looks really hard or if it looks risky, obviously you just can't bid on all of those, but at least know in your head there could be big money here. I need to spend a few minutes looking at this one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's huge. I mean, when you think about remodeling apartments, think about how many apartments just got remodeled and bought, and then as soon as it's remodeled, the rent is $300 more expensive, $400 more expensive. It's for reasons, because somebody underwrote that and they realized, hey man, if we remodel all this stuff, we do all this work, we can make some more money. People are still doing it and still doing it and still doing it. It's a great idea.
And well, I'll just say one more thing. People watching this, if they're watching it kind of around the time we're taping it, is there's none of those deals anymore. Well, I don't think that's necessarily true. There might be one-off deals, but you're right, because we've had such a cycle from the 2008 crash until now it's 2021, and because of interest rates being low for so long, a lot of the foreclosures and the tough deals have been picked up and have been renovated, so they're not laying around like they were in 2012 or 2014. Fine, but I want to remind everyone, real estate is a cycle. And so these deals will come back around. Right now, right today, someone's overpaying for a property. They don't know what they're doing. They've never had a deal fail. And 5 years from now, that's going to be back on the market. A bank's going to own it, and it's going to have been mismanaged, and it's going to be right for someone ready to go.
Yeah.
So, and maybe it's not 5, maybe it's 3, maybe it's 7, but those deals will always come back around, because these strong cycles that we're having now, everybody's making money. Everybody thinks they can't lose, and interest rates are low. And so they're just overpaying, betting on the upside. And when that doesn't come and they're inexperienced, their numbers don't work, it starts to fall apart. So that's why we kept this one in here.
Yep. One of my favorite reasons I love commercial real estate is you get money literally from so many different things, right? So when you're talking about appreciation, a lot of the times when we analyze it, it's annual rent growth. We talk about it a lot. You need rent growth every year. It's kind of like inflation. It happens. It's inevitable. You've got to get rent growth. But another thing is somebody may be willing to pay more money for that income in the future than today. And what we're talking about is cap rate compression. So when you go in, you could be buying a shopping center or an apartment complex at a 7% cap rate or an 8% cap rate. And then 5 years from now, that could be a much more desirable asset class, and maybe it's a 6% cap rate on the sale. So even if you lost income, you went from a $500,000 NOI to a $450,000 NOI, but you went from an 8% cap rate to a 6% cap rate, you're making tons of money.
Oh, well, Braden, that doesn't make any sense. You can't do that.
It's apartments. I mean, you used to be able to buy apartments on a cap rate. like actual income. Here's the actual cap rate on that actual income. And now it's like, here's the 5 cap on the projected income that you should be able to do if you spend this much money and you get this astronomical rent growth.
Yeah.
Yeah. It goes back to people thinking that the market always sorts itself out perfectly. And so, well, if someone's asking $5 million for that deal, that's about what it's worth. But I'll tell you, if someone's asking $5 million for a deal, then someone's going to try to buy that at 4.9.
100%.
But what if you marketed the same asset at a slightly different cap rate and asked $6 million? Someone might think 5.7 is a really good deal. And if you don't think that's true, then you're not positive enough to be good at this game. Because every deal that I've ever purchased, someone always asks me, why are they selling it? They probably don't want it. Well, there's not going to be a reason they're selling it. It's probably, or why would they pay that? And so you have to believe in possibility. And so when you're looking at these deals, I look at so many hundreds of deals every day, every week, and tens of deals a day. And there's deals that come across my desk that are listed at an 8 cap in a middle market, at good frontage, well built, and I'll see the same thing marketed at a 6.5 cap, which is a big difference in purchase price. They look, other than the cap rate, they look identical. And of course, the 6.5s, I just scroll through. And the pessimist will say, well, there's got to be a reason that's an 8 cap. There's got to be a reason. Maybe there is, okay, but maybe there's just a more aggressive owner that said, take this thing out at a 6 cap. Mm-hmm. Or an owner that has a better basis in the property. Let's say he bought for 3, and so he thinks taking it out at an 8 cap, which is $5 million, he's hitting a home run.
Yeah.
And so there's all those factors that are built into the system that makes it an imperfect system to determine value. And so that's where the opportunity for us comes along, because if you can determine what someone is selling at an 8 cap because it's been in their family and passed down to their kids and they don't even care about it anymore and they just want to get their money out, and the brokers, hey, if I can get them to sell at an 8 cap, we can sell this quick so I'll get paid quicker. Right. Can you identify that versus a true 6 cap? And maybe you can buy this at an 8 and then you'll turn around 5 years from now and sell it at 7. And that's how to really juice your returns. Your returns are already going to go up because you're going to raise rents and you're going to manage it well. But you really juice the returns when you get cap rate compression on the sale. Now, I'm not saying build that into your model necessarily.
No, that could be risky.
But man, if you can identify those type of opportunities, and I'm not going to mention the name of the property, but we have a property right now that we bought at about an 8 cap, and we're going to sell it at a 6 cap 2.5 years later.
It was an 8.3 cap.
8.3, okay. And then we're going to be at around a 6 cap on slightly higher income. Okay, so you could tell me all day long why that's impossible, and I'll tell you that it is a lot of times impossible, but what if it is possible? What if you can figure out those deals? You're going to do better than the average person investing in commercial real estate.
It's an underwriting game. You've got to get good underwriting, and you've got to believe it, and you've got to get a bunch of other people to believe it. Your lender, your investors, your partners, everyone in the deal, but it's 100% an underwriting game. And it wouldn't be fair to talk about cap rate compression without cap rate expansion. And I love to talk about the Starbucks on the corner that everyone, Starbucks leases those stores, right? So if you go buy a Starbucks, you're going to have super high rent because they factored in the cost of the build out of the Starbucks in the rent.
Yeah,
so
$40 rent.
It's inflated already. And then when Starbucks leaves and builds across the street, with the other landlord, then you're going to backfill it with somebody with less credit than a Starbucks. You're going to get less income. So you're going to have less income and cap rate expansion of maybe 2%. So you could get hosed on that deal.
Yeah, I wish we should do a show with showing in the numbers. Buying a 6 cap deal at $45 rents and then having to reduce your income to $25 rent and sell at a 7 cap or a 7.5 cap. You're destroyed on your returns if you even get your money back. So anyway, those are 5. I think that's 5.
That's 5.
That's 5 ways that we've used to drastically outperform competitors that are doing what we're doing and get big time gains in commercial real estate. Hopefully they'll help you.
Absolutely. Yep. Thanks, guys.